Carnival Corporation, the largest cruise operator on the planet, just confirmed a breach affecting nearly 6 million people. That's passengers, loyalty members, and anybody who handed over personal details to book a sailing on Carnival, Princess, Holland America, or any other brands falling under that umbrella. And guess who's taking credit for this one? Well, if you guessed ShinyHunters, you'd be right. So here's what we know so far. Apparently, ShinyHunters got back in April, and based on what we've been piecing together, this looks like another Salesforce-themed social engineering hit. Yeah, ShinyHunters has been hammering that angle for months, calling support desks and tricking the staff into authorizing rogue OAuth attempts, bypassing multi-factor authentication, and walking out with whole CRM tables. Oh yeah, and another thing that I should probably bring up here is, well, Carnival sat on the disclosure for over a month before confirming the scope. Not cool, yo. So as far as the leaked data goes, we're talking about the standard but yet still terrifying personal data, stuff like names, date of birth, email addresses, phone numbers, and in some cases, passport-related identifiers and loyalty card details. Luckily, no financial data or passwords were taken according to Carnival. That's the line they're sticking with. Cool. All right, so still, this data is a perfect phishing kit, okay? It's also good for account takeover attempts, travel-themed scams aimed directly at people who've already booked cruises. These are things that can absolutely happen here, folks. So as far as the damage goes, we're talking about roughly 6 million customers being affected here. Now, given Carnival's footprint, that spans guests across the US, UK, Australia, and Europe. Basically, just anywhere their ships dock. So anyways, the company's response has been fairly thin so far. They've notified regulators, they're offering identity monitoring to impacted customers, and they're refusing to say whether a ransom was demanded or paid. Now, ShinyHunters claims Carnival ignored their extortion attempt, which is why the data is now circulating. Make of that what you will. All right. So if you've ever booked a Carnival cruise or any other brand they own, well, assume that your contact details are out there. Okay. Watch for cruise themed phishing emails and fake booking confirmations. Don't click any links in any message claiming to be from Carnival. Go to the site directly. And if a passport number was in your file, keep an eye on your travel documents for misuse and maybe consider a credit freeze as a baseline. Or maybe just, take up camping instead. Moving on to our next story. This one's interesting because I've seen a lot of these stories pop up from time to time, and really it's only now it seems that Uncle Sam is even paying attention, okay? So check this out. The Pentagon has known for years that cheap, simple fixes could stop soldiers' phones from broadcasting their locations to anybody willing to pay for the data. And they've almost done nothing up until this point. But only now, officials are admitting that, adversaries are using this exact tactic to target U.S. troops during active conflict. So here's the setup, okay? Every smartphone leaks location signals through ad networks, weather apps, games, anything with a SDK that phones home. Now, databrokers will vacuum it up, package it up, and sell it. So for like a few $1,000s, you can buy the precise movement patterns of phones around military bases, training sites, or even forward operating positions. Yeah, the scary part about this, folks, is this isn't a hack. This is just simply a retail transaction, okay? Anyways, military leadership was warned about this as far back as 2016. Internal recommendations included buying access to the same broker feeds to see what was exposed, pushing troops to harden phone settings, and locking down which apps could run on devices near sensitive sites. I don't know how I feel about that personally. Either way, most of those recommendations went nowhere, and simply because there was no funding, no policy teeth, no follow-through. So the impact is exactly what you'd expect here, okay? Reporting now indicates that foreign intelligence services are pulling commercial location data to map U.S. troop movements, including in war zones. We're talking about soldiers being trackable through the same data pipeline as a sneaker company uses to retarget ads. Yeah, the Pentagon has spent hundreds of billions on stealth aircraft and signal security, and then loses all that location game to Candy Crush. Yeah. So what's next here is going to be messy, folks. The pressure to regulate data brokers at the federal level is going to be a fight, and it's been stalled in Congress for years. The military can buy its way into this visibility, but it can't put the commercial surveillance economy back in the box. The takeaway here is that if a state adversary can track soldiers through ad tech, your corporate threat model probably underestimates this too. Audit what your devices are broadcasting and assume the broker market already has it. Okay, so the last story was all about how the Pentagon sort of dropped the ball. Well, this next story is the exact opposite. You see, NATO is actually stepping up their cybersecurity game. Yes, NATO just signed formal cybersecurity partnerships with Microsoft, Palo Alto Networks, and ESET. The announcement dropped at CyCon in Tallinn, and it tells you exactly where alliance defense thinking has moved. Yeah, state actors alone aren't running the wire anymore. It's private vendors who do. Yeah, and here's where the partnerships are actually delivering, okay? They're non-commercial agreements, meaning that no money changes hands and no products get sold into NATO contracts through this. Instead, the three companies share threat intelligence, technical expertise, and visibility into attacker behavior directly tied in with NATO's cyber defense arms. So think of this as a structured pipeline for telemetry and analysis between vendors who see global attack traffic and an alliance that needs to defend 32 member states. So why does this matter? Well, it's because the people that are watching nation-state intrusions in real time, well, they're not governments. They're endpoint vendors, cloud providers, and network security companies. Yeah, Microsoft sees identity attacks across hundreds of millions of tenants. And Palo Alto, they watch traffic at the perimeter of huge chunks of the enterprise world. And ESET, well, they have deep telemetry across Europe, including parts of the threat surface closest to Russian and Belarusian operations. Yeah, NATO formalizing access to that view is recognition that public sector visibility isn't enough. The evidence for why this is needed is everywhere, right? Volt Typhoon pre-positioning in critical infrastructure, Sandworm hitting Ukrainian power and logistics, routine wiper campaigns against alliance-adjacent targets. These were all surfaced by vendor research before the government attribution caught up. Yeah, so what's next is the interesting part. All right, expect more vendors to be added. Expect questions about how intelligence flows back the other way and whether smaller European security firms get a seat at the table or just watch from the outside. And there's also a sovereignty conversation coming about how much NATO defense is relying on two American companies. I guess the takeaway here is that if your threat model includes state actors, watch what these three vendors publish, okay? NATO is now reading the same reports you are. Okay, folks, well, that about wraps up today's stories. This is Andy Thompson signing off.